and welcome to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ashton.
And my name is Peter.
And Ben's not here because he's on his holidays.
Oh, it's going to get crazy in here.
The last time he wasn't here, we talked about boobs for like
a lot.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, more boobs.
More boobs. Could happen.
Yeah. But it's not a boobs podcast, is it, Peter?
No, it's a video game podcast.
It's a video game podcast. And though Ben isn't here to control us, we will still do what we need to by talking about video games.
Yeah, we'll try our very best.
Yeah.
We'll talk mostly about video games and occasionally about video games. I don't want to say it too much at the start of the video because YouTube might get cross. If we leave it a couple of minutes, we can say that more.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what it is. We know what it is. It's supported by a very real video game sponsor.
Yes.
Who help us keep the lights on. The light on. This light is still on thanks to our sponsors.
Dead Island 2, the spider's still up there, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So
and I think there was
here.
also another one last week.
Yeah, there's a little one up there, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah. It's still
A
there.
room full of spiders.
Got a couple of spiders.
We record this podcast under extreme duress from spiders.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all right. But thanks to the spiders are here thanks to our sponsor, which Ashton has brought along.
I have. So something came out this week that I don't know if anyone's really been talking about because like the publisher hasn't really been doing any marketing for it. They've kind of just been like leaving it on the down low, like if you find it, you find it kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's out there, we're plastering adverts for it all over every website ever. But you'd have thought they'd done that beforehand. Anyway, but it's kind of like it's a game that focuses on one of the senses. You know, it's got really intense kind of attack on your senses in various ways. And it also features kind of a quest to get something.
Right.
And kind of have something at the same time. You know, it's kind of, you give me one thing, I'll give you the other thing, kind of. That's what main quest is. Right. I have something you want, you have something I want.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's the second one of these games.
All right, yeah, I'm with you now.
It is, of course, Smell Trade 2. Yeah. Senua's Saga.
Oh, Senua's Saga. I was waiting for the subtitle.
No, there isn't. It's just it's still Senua's Saga.
Smell Trade.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got a smell. I've got a smell.
Let's trade smells.
Do you want to swap?
Let's have one each.
Yeah.
So that's coming. It's out now. Except it's not because it's not real.
Oh, what? I was getting I wanted to ask you all about it.
No.
Find out how it plays.
It's just like, instead of wearing your headphones for like a binaural experience, you've just got like a little nose thing that
like
just
a
pumps,
feed bag for a horse,
and it pumps the smell of like the viscera that you're experiencing straight into the nostrils. There was that thing.
Well, I was going to say we did cover a couple of months ago now.
Yeah, that weird like incense type thing that was like the smell of blood and fuel and grass,
and then like one really weird specific fresh air. Yeah.
But it's not real. We're not sponsored by Smell Trade 2. We are in fact sponsored by our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump, where you can ask questions on this podcast if you fancy, and get a whole bunch of other rewards.
Yeah.
As well.
We put a post out asking for questions for this podcast. It goes out on a
Monday,
actually. Yeah, Monday. Not a Tuesday. I thought it went out at the same time. Yeah.
We also have a website, triplej.mup, to find all kinds of things like YouTube, Twitch, Discord, Cameo, shop. You can buy some merch like this.
Yeah.
Like that.
And not this.
Not that one,
anymore.
but that's all right. At triplejumpshop.com and, of course, patreon.com/Team TripleJump. Peter, a few things out this week, isn't there?
That's right. We've got a video that we were maybe hoping to put out last week, but it is now ready. Well, actually, I don't know if it's ready. It's been handed to me today, and I've not yet looked at it, but I trust in our editing team.
If you look on the channel and there's not a big ranked list
then
there,
it wasn't ready.
It wasn't ready.
But it is supposed to be finished and in good time to go out. So every Warhammer video game ranked from worst to best. We have done Warhammer 40k ranked from worst to best before, but this is your Warhammer Fantasy, your traditional Warhammer. I forget what they call it now. It has a subtitle that I have forgotten. You'll be able to find out what it is if you don't already know.
In the video that went out yesterday.
In that video, yeah. People are going to be cross that I can't remember the new sort of official branding of
That's okay.
Warhammer Fantasy, but that is going out. Ashton, what else?
It's also Weirdest Games Ever Week. You two played King of Clubs.
Yeah.
Is it a golf game?
It was a golf game.
Cool.
It was bad.
Good. That's out tomorrow
yeah.
on the channel, but it's already out if you're a patron, so you could go check it out if you fancy.
It was a Wii golf game.
A Wii
that
golf
I played
game.
sitting down at a desk.
Very good.
Yeah.
How God intended.
Exactly, yeah. You're supposed to stand side on and swing the Wiimote. I was facing the detector and, playing like that. It went really well.
Yeah, I can only imagine. My dad used to play lots of Wii golf games. He used to play like the Tiger Woods PGA Tour, and him and his buddies would all sit in the side room where the telly was and just like play Wii golf.
You'd have to maybe all be in an armchair that's turned at 90 degrees and just watch it sideways.
Yeah. No, they took it very seriously. Stood up, proper stance and everything.
Hey, good for them.
Yeah, dads love it. Wii golf.
They do.
Also this week, we have been raising money for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund on our streams. You can still go and catch them. They're all on the VODs channel, and the link to donate is in the description. Or you can go triplejump.mup/charity if you fancy it.
Yes.
Ben might be streaming for charity on Tuesday as well.
Oh, yeah,
that's his first stream of the week. But maybe. I'm not going to put it on him.
No.
But I imagine if we ask him, he would say yes.
Yeah.
So...
because I probably won't be streaming on the Monday because it's a bank holiday.
A bank holiday.
So,
Another one.
We get 2 in May in the UK for some reason.
No one knows why.
No. And that's it. So, yeah, that link will still be live. And even if Ben doesn't stream, I imagine we will leave the campaign live for maybe an indefinite period of time. So you'll always be able to go to that link and donate to charity if you wish to do so.
Time now for question 1, please, Peter.
All right. It's from Dan Scott, 2 first names, who says, "Hiya, BAP." It's quite a long question here, but it's worth it.
It's actually just app.
Hiya, app, yes.
Or
Hiya, Dad. The new Assassin's Creed game got announced this week with the subtitle Shadows, set in feudal Japan, and it's set to star a black protagonist named Yasuke, who is a real-life historical figure, as well as another protagonist as well, incidentally. Unfortunately, and sadly, unsurprisingly, a loud minority have taken to social media to cry woke about a black protagonist in a samurai game, and the petty squabbling about whether the man was actually a samurai IRL appears to be overshadowing any other marketing coming out of the game at the moment. Now, my question doesn't necessarily pertain to the newest Assassin's Creed game having a black protagonist, as it's an extremely dumb thing to whine about, but more the broader scope of the effect that social media can have on a game's release, and where the industry stands right now in regards to toxic people going out of their way to find reasons to discredit a game. While it's not an inherently new phenomenon, it's now starting to feel like a more common occurrence, and I wonder, is this kind of toxicity going to keep growing as time goes on, and could it ever snowball into something that might actually make an impact on decisions made by developers? Apologies if I phrased my question poorly. Hopefully you get the gist of what I'm trying to ask. Much love to you all, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. I think this is interesting. Like, it's quite difficult to see which way this could go, because I feel like, fortunately, mercifully, we are seeing a lot of inclusivity in games nowadays, or more than we have done in, certainly 10 years ago or whatever. And that's a good thing in the views of most people, except perhaps people who have crossed that a black man is in the next Assassin's Creed game.
The choice is a black man or a Japanese woman.
Yeah. Oh my God.
What are you going to do?
Ooh, boycott. That's what I'm going to do. So if you look at various data points, you would assume that, like, okay, that is moving in the right direction, what we believe to be the right direction, hopefully. However, I think that, unfortunately, as we've discovered with all the various layoffs that have been happening for the past sort of year or more, the video games industry is run, like pretty much every industry, by people who care more about money than anything else. And I think there's a chance that if this was to somehow snowball to an extent where there are like boycotts from people who are like very right-leaning and aren't interested in games like this, then maybe there could be an issue of, oh, we make less money from our games if we're more inclusive, so maybe let's do less of that. Now, do I think that's likely to happen? No, I don't, because as you say, Dan, in your question, it's a loud minority. And I think that's the key point here, is that actually, even though this does happen, and it is a very loud thing that is happening, it is from a relatively small number of people, thank goodness. And therefore, no matter how many of those people choose to vote with their wallets, there will hopefully always be far more people voting with their wallets saying, hey, I like this. This is cool. This is interesting. So, like, in theory, if this was to snowball hypothetically, and suddenly there's this like huge movement of people saying, women, non-white people, then on paper that could potentially influence big CEOs to say, oh, well, I care more about my money than I care about anything else. Yeah, let's make some changes. But do I think that's actually ever going to happen? Probably not, unless there are huge, horrible political swings in the world, because it is a minority.
Yeah, well, I think like this all comes down to kind of the wider society, like as a whole, and how things have recently become a lot more hateful online, and there's a big shift in people whose views have, for the last 20 or so years, have been kind of, considered to be a bit more quieter, because they feel like if they say something, they're just being a bit more considerate with how they're feeling. However, we have seen a big shift in the political landscape in a lot of areas, which have led to these people feeling like they have been, what's the word? They're being more motivated to say these things out loud. And I think that is part of the problem, which I'm not going to go into because that's a whole other ball game that's not about video games.
Yeah.
But in terms of this kind of thing, it always just baffles me about these games, in that I have not looked at a game in a long time that's only had like a white male protagonist, or just a male protagonist in general, and thought to myself, man, I'm not going to play this because it's got a man in it. And I feel like if anyone deserves to be like, why have we got this protagonist instead of something else? I feel like it's the people who have not been represented for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I there's nothing bad about the fact that these are the main protagonists of Ubisoft's games. And I do think that, the people who are piping off about it are, like you say, the loud minority of people.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to make Ubisoft change their entire game.
No.
I think the only people it makes look bad are the people who are complaining about this kind of thing. I know there's various reasons. Like, there's a lot of Japanese people who are like, well, why couldn't we play as a Japanese man?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable
Which I
point.
understand, like, completely, that being, an issue that someone might have.
This might be the only chance
for you play
Japanese...
a French game,
yeah.
Like you play the French Assassin's Creed, you play a French man, and then you play the Viking Assassin's Creed, you play a Viking man/woman. You play the Japanese game, you don't get to play a Japanese man. I get it. That I can understand being a little bit disappointed. But just because a man is a black man or an Asian woman, it doesn't mean you can't play the game. And I think that that's the weird thing about it. It's like, well, I'm not being represented, as if like there's not thousands and thousands of other games that you are represented in. This outcry on social media is just right now, I think, part of a bigger problem. And that problem being, I have a voice, must make it heard. My opinion's better than everyone else's opinion.
Yeah. Even
if it's a hateful opinion that I have regarding something else. I don't think it's going to affect developers in the long run. I think we've seen... Well, that's not true. I think it will unfortunately affect smaller studios and smaller teams. Like, and I hate to bring this back up because everyone got very upset with us when we talked about that last time, but like that Sweet Baby Inc. situation.
I actually brought a little bit of stuff
like
about them.
When that happened, obviously people that were being attacked were individual developers on games and individual members of the team at Sweet Baby Inc. It was never like, oh, it's Ubisoft. It was, look at this black man that works for Ubisoft. It's his fault.
Yeah.
And he's the one receiving death threats, whereas the developers are just kind of like, hey guys, please can we chill out and stop sending our devs death threats, please?
I think I gave an example a couple of weeks ago about... this one like really sticks with me because I think I was in a really good mood. I was watching the... Indiana Jones like gameplay reveal and I was like, oh, this is great, and I just glanced at the comments while I was in this like, oh yeah, great, and I saw people complaining about like just one of the developers who'd briefly been shown on screen, and they were like, oh, flip's sake, look at that person, and just starting to make judgments based on them and saying, oh, I bet they've had like, you know, I bet they've forced stuff into this game. And yeah, that one in particular is one of many examples, but that's kind of stuck with me as an egregious thing.
Yeah. I don't think that the wider company is going to stop including people of color and women and other minorities in their games because people are the vocal minority. I just think it makes the landscape just a little bit worse, which again is not specific to gaming. We see it with TV and just general life. So I'm hopeful that Ubisoft will see this and be like, do you know what? Suck it up.
Yeah.
Here's even more about this, and then just like lean into that a bit more. There's plenty of other things to be annoyed about in gaming. I don't feel like there being a black man in your Assassin's Creed game is necessarily the slam dunk you think it is.
Yeah, I like, and you know they do say like all publicity is good publicity, or like engagement. You know, we don't necessarily mind so much if we get, well, we care if we get abusive comments in our YouTube videos, like that's not okay. But if we get people sort of kind of, you know, debating in the comments saying, I think you're wrong and here are the reasons why, that's engagement, and YouTube likes that. And so if people are on social media arguing perhaps more about historicity rather than I just don't want to play as a woman in my game. But like, if you want to have a debate about whether someone was a samurai or, you know,
existed or not.
Yeah, exactly. Like how any of this fits into the history, then that's probably no bad thing for Ubisoft, even if people are coming at it from a bit of a like, you know, like criticizing essentially developers, saying like, oh, I think you've done something inaccurate here. It's probably not going to be too bad for them if people are talking about their game.
I mean, you are right. I had forgotten the trailer was coming out, and then I saw people talking about this guy and how he was potentially like a real samurai, and you know, it's a historically accurate character. And I was like, interesting. I saw that before I saw the trailer because I had forgotten about the trailer, and then people were talking about it. It causes discussions,
and it makes it trend because people, if they're just using the words Assassin's Creed Shadows or on social media, then you get the trending terms. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's, you know, that was part of Dan's question. Like, it's probably no bad thing that people are arguing about certain aspects of this, but yeah, I guess when it like delves into a more, you know, issue of inclusivity and stuff, then that is a problem. But yeah, I also thought of the Sweet Baby Inc. thing when I read this question, and I found a little quote from a Kotaku article that someone did where they interviewed Kim Belair, who is the CEO, and she just said, Sweet Baby Inc. is at its core a narrative development company. That means anything from script writing to narrative design to narrative direction to story reviews. One of the things we do offer is cultural consultations or authenticity consultations, but they are not coming in and injecting diversity. For the most part, it's the reverse. It's that the company has created a character and they want to make that character more representative and more interesting. So yeah, it's a hot topic, and hopefully it can. There's nothing wrong with people having debates about things like historic accuracy, but yeah.
It's also when you take everything a bit too personally, and you're like, because they've not included a white man, it's a personal attack on me.
Yeah,
it's not, guys. It's not.
No,
unfortunately, I'm not that important to Ubisoft. They don't. Yeah. They've not done it because Greg down the road, like, he's a white man, and we wanted to really upset him. We've just done it because this is a cool story, and we want to tell a cool story.
Yeah,
about a black samurai.
And because, you know, there haven't been that many Asian women in video games, or you know, black males. Of course, there've been some. People will be able to take to the comments and say, "I think you'll find that the protagonist of, you know, this game was an Asian woman." Yeah, I know. But how many white men have there been? So it's not an attack on you if there's not a white man protagonist. It's a way of helping other people get their representation. It's not about taking away from you actively.
Also, I think that maybe Ubisoft have to do this because they had to make their Japanese games stand out, because there's so many feudal Japan games. I mean, Rise of the Ronin came out a few weeks ago now, and that looked very Assassin's Creed in the way that you would I mean, it was a bit more melee combat. It wasn't assassin-y. But then again, some of the more recent Assassin's Creed games have not been as assassin-y as the other ones.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and
they had to go and
Ghost
make
of
it.
Tsushima.
Yeah. There's loads in there. You kind of make your one stand out. So maybe they were like, how do we stick out from the crowd?
Yeah.
A woman!
And what better way to, do it than include someone who is, alleged to have existed? To me, I think it doesn't really matter whether or not he... Like, if the next Assassin's Creed game was about Robin Hood, like... It doesn't matter whether he was real or not. It's like it's someone who is at least like a legendary character, true or not.
In a time period and an area that is.
Yeah, exactly. So if this guy did or didn't exist, if there are at least legends about him, then that's an interesting person to pick up on and say, hey, here's this story that people talk about. Let's do our own take on it. So yeah.
So there. Well, now it's time for a segment that I thought we could try while Ben's away.
Okay.
And I think we should call it, now tell me if you don't like it, What We Playin.
I like it. It's What We Playin time. Time to talk about the great game we've been playing, says Ben Potter. That's my impression of Ben Potter. Ashton, you've been away.
I have.
In fact, we should have done that in the intro. We normally do that. Ashton, hello, welcome back. Did you have a good time?
I didn't actually technically go anywhere because I was here for both podcasts. So, no one would have even known.
True.
But I did go on holiday and I got back late on Tuesday night, technically Wednesday morning, and I haven't played a single game.
Well, that's all right.
Don't be mad at me,
it's
all right?
It's understandable.
I left Friday morning. Well, tried to. Cancelled my flight, didn't they?
Yeah.
So didn't actually leave until Friday night. But they haven't played anything. Sorry about
You should have taken your Switch.
I know.
Shouts the audience.
I know. But the thing is, so I went to Amsterdam, and that flight's like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's not
like,
long.
by the time I got my Switch out, figured out what I want to play, set it up, played it, I would have had to put it away anyway.
What, you mean you don't want to just play Switch in the hotel room, like Ben?
No, I didn't want to play Switch or Game Boy in my hotel room.
Oh, what?
I didn't spend much time.
What are holidays for?
Yeah, just hanging out in the hotel room. No, we walked around a lot and ate a lot of food and drank a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't played anything. Sorry.
That's all right. Fortunately, because I normally have not played much.
I messaged Peter
week on week,
and I was like, "Please tell me you've played something. We might have to just skip over this segment because normally, Peter's like, I've not played nothing, or I've played one thing," and I was like, "Can you talk enough about it?"
I have played a few things. A number of them were me just very briefly dabbling, but it's a fortunate, a happy accident. So in terms of new stuff, before I get on to covering old ground of games I have played before, I've continued playing Far. So I finished the first one, Lone Sails. Wow, it was like it wasn't that I actually had hardly any more to do after I spoke about it last week. But it's atmospheric. It was really kind of it was weird because it was a bit of a emotional ending, or it made you feel stuff, but there's never any dialogue in the game. And I know that's not unique. There's lots of games like this that don't have any dialogue and you can still feel stuff at the end. But at least, to take something like Little Nightmares, for example, Little Nightmares 2, there's the two characters in that. And so you can kind of in your mind develop, you can understand what their relationship is and how they might feel about each other, and then the consequences of that. And likewise, Limbo is seemingly about a little boy trying to find his sister or something. But with this, you're you're just this one person on your ship, and when you get to the end of it, you have to limp across the finish line. I don't want to be too spoilery in case anyone's not played it before, but you go through this thing, you're constantly kind of sort of upgrading your ship or changing it and doing things to keep it moving. And towards the end, there is this accident and the ship mostly breaks, and a tiny piece of it just sort of drags over the finish line. And it's almost you're one character and the ship itself is has this relationship, and to kind of limp over the finish line is how it felt. And then you just sort of fade out and there's a nice sunset. So I was oh wow, that was for a single character just doing a little adventure on their own, that was surprisingly emotive.
Yeah.
So I've started the next one, Changing Tides, which at the moment feels like more of the same, which is no bad thing. Like I enjoyed it a lot, the first one. I also, for our Palestine charity stream on Monday, I was doing some Crash Bandicoot 2 in the Insane trilogy.
Yes.
And because I had reinstalled that onto my console for the stream, I have since now been playing a little bit of Crash Bandicoot 1. I couldn't help it. I was like, oh yeah, I've not played this in ages, the actual Insane trilogy. So I've been enjoying that, playing some of that. But also, I've been doing a bit of a recce because I have got a young relative coming to stay this weekend.
What?
And I know that question one will be, do you have any games on your phone?
You got games on your phone?
And then his second question might be, you got games on your PS5? So I've been thinking...
How old is said young person?
He is, he's in his like mid-teens.
Right, so it's probably not going to be, have you got games on your phone? Because he probably has games on his phone.
He will have games on his phone, but he's not very console literate or console experienced. He's a bit of a PC gamer, and I'm sure he has games on his phone as well, but he doesn't play much PS5. So I thought, if it's like a wet weekend and we need to entertain him at home, what can I do? So I have played a bit of a Sackboy, A Big Adventure, picked that up again. So I 2 days ago, what day is it? Thursday, on Tuesday, I was going around installing various games that I thought could work for local co-op. So Sackboy, I've installed It Takes Two, but I don't think maybe we were not going to be able to play the whole game over the weekend, so then he'll kind of feel like, oh, we've just got half a story there. Yeah. Whereas Sackboy, it's not so bad. And then I've got Overcooked as well. So I've installed a few of them. And then, the third one I installed was Sackboy. And on Tuesday night, I just sat down and played a little bit of that just to sort of I was like, I want to be on my top game when I'm playing some co-op Sackboy.
You got to impress the teenagers.
Exactly. So I was like, I'll just sort of play like an hour of it so I remember how it works. When this podcast goes out, I could potentially be sitting playing a bunch of couch co-op, which will be nice because I hardly get to do that ever, even though I do have a wife. She's not so into gaming. So
she's not real.
She's not. Even though I have a wife, she's not real. So
I'm quite excited though because I'm hopefully going to be playing some Hellblade 2.
Yes.
Senua's Saga. Well, actually, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I keep seeing it on the reverse way around. Not quite sure which way around. I don't know. But I'm hoping we're playing that this weekend. So I'll tell you how I find it next weekend.
Yeah.
Next week. First weekend for you.
And you have on stream played some
Little Kitty Big City. Yeah, that is an interesting game. To be honest, so Tom asked me about this week because he saw I was streaming it, and I enjoyed it so I've basically in 4 hours.
Tell by the way you were answering Tom, that this is how you felt.
So I played it for 4 hours on stream, and you have to collect a certain amount of fish to be able to climb, to get up your energy high enough to be able to climb back to your perch where you sit and have naps. The game itself is really nice. You play as a little cat, you can collect different hats, and there's animals all around the place who have quests for you to do, and various little bits and pieces that you can gradually kind of complete as you're wandering around the city. I just feel like they've not really added enough into it. I think that I basically after the first stream could have just climbed up and finished the game, which I didn't realize. I thought there was going to be more to do because you find a fish and then it unlocks a whole other area, and then it's like, oh cool, what's around here? And then I'm like, oh, I could just go and finish it now if I wanted to. You can then go back down and collect the rest of the hats and do all the other missions, because it's kind of, and I hate to compare it to this, it's a bit like a goat sim type thing where you can just go and knock a lot of plant pots off and unlock an achievement, or do various things around the city. There's a bunch of footballs that are color coded to their goals, and you can go and knock them into the goals and stuff. So there is plenty to do, but I just think that I wish they'd kind of done a little bit more with it. Yeah,
I think looking at it, it just in terms of the trailers and stuff, and I didn't read a lot about it. I just watched the gameplay trailer. I definitely thought it would be not necessarily narrative led like Stray, but that it would be a bit more towards that than something like Goat Sim. And I know you're saying it's not a like-for-like comparison, but less of a just an open sandbox and slightly more focused.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things that could have benefited it. That being one of them is a little bit more structure and potentially a little bit more content. But for a little indie game, if you've got Game Pass, I recommend playing it. But I personally wouldn't spend £20 on it.
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully
£20's not too expensive for a game, but for like, I'm not sure if it's got enough content to justify being £20.
Yeah, and hopefully if it's if it continues to be sort of received quite well, and if people keep like posting clips about it and stuff, then maybe they might think, okay, we can justify a second game, and in that one, they will have the justification to say, let's put more into it and make it a bigger package.
Yeah, so. Because it's called Little Kitty Big City, but the city is not that big.
Right. Okay. Little Kitty, Little City.
Little Kitty, Little City.
Right. Well.
But, hey. Good fun for a few hours. If you want to. And every time you put a hat on, I basically swooned. So
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Well, time for question 2.
Yes.
Comes from Georgia Burton. Hello, BAP. CD Projekt Red has released a Red Kit for The Witcher 3, which would allow modders access to developer tools that were used to create the game a decade ago. Do you think this is a good idea? And should more RPGs set about creating kits like this?
Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you, Georgia.
Incidentally, Georgia and everyone else, we put a question post out every week. You can DM us a question if you like, Georgia, but you can also answer on the public post.
Yeah, I almost missed it.
Yeah.
I was like not going to check the DMs.
And it's good. I was glad someone asked about this as well, because So
bring it on the post next time, and we might see it. PC Gamer, I got a little blurb from them about what this entails from Andy Chalk. The Witcher 3 mods are plentiful already thanks to the release of ModKit in 2015, but ModKit isn't RedKit. What enables users to mess around with what's already in the game, turn Roach into a unicorn, for instance, it doesn't enable the creation of entirely new content. RedKit does, including quests, cutscenes, environments, and more, which is what makes the rollout such a big deal. Yeah, so it's a bunch of content that helps you make more Witcher 3 content should you wish.
Yeah.
I think this is great.
Yes, me too. I think it's a really good idea. I think especially with a game like The Witcher 3, which, is however many years old now.
2015, so it's 2015. Going on 9 years.
Well, it's been out that long. It still stands up very well, holds up well, but to bring this out, it suddenly gives it a whole new lease of life. Like people can create obviously it's serious stuff, hey, here's a set of interesting missions I've made that I think would be good for Geralt to do, or they can do silly things. It reminds me of the Forge mode in Halo 3 and I think every subsequent Halo game, where that was fairly simple in that you could only edit the existing multiplayer maps, and most of the stuff that was in there was static, but you could add new things in. And so some people would just go to a big open outdoor level, and they would just build a racetrack in the sky out of objects, like in GTA as well, that kind of thing. So as much as people will be able to make some cool, interesting Witcher content, they'll also be able to make silly mini games, presumably, where you have to play basketball or throw things or do silly things like that. And on top of that as well, I think we're now going to see loads of interesting Witcher animations and stuff. Again, some of it will be very silly skits.
Some of it will be sexual.
Some of it probably will be very sexual. I hadn't thought of that, but of course it will.
They probably were already doing that. Let's be real.
There will have been ways to do that almost immediately, I'm sure. But it looked like a relatively intuitive way of doing stuff like this. So I think all games should, well, not all games, it wouldn't work in every game, but lots of games should do this, especially your big RPGs, I think, and your big sandbox games, because there's so much opportunity to do interesting things.
I think it makes complete sense, and I think it's a really smart decision to do it, because you then give your game an entirely new lease of life. I've not played through The Witcher 3.
Yeah, me neither.
But it's just one of those things that I've been not wanting to, I need to play it, but in the sense of I should probably give that a go at some point. But I would love to see what people can create, because there's certain Skyrim mods and like stories in the Skyrim mods that are like so highly revered and people love them so much. Same with like things like Portal 2 mods. There's certain story expansions that people have made that obviously are not canon, but you don't really need them to be. If you like a game and you want more content, then why not, give people the option to do it? I think that there's lots of games that I would love to see them do something like this with. I mean, I know it's CD Projekt Red and they probably won't see it for a little while now, given that this is like a 10-year down the line thing for The Witcher 3. But I'd love them to do that with Cyberpunk, because I loved the world of Cyberpunk, and I would love to see what other people can do with things. Like, I'm not clever enough to make my own mod. I'm not clever enough to write my own story and figure it out myself. But that's, there's people out there that will have these like fan fiction type ideas for additional content for these games, and have now been given the opportunity to create it and make it as in line with the Witcher 3 content as they can. But I just think it's great. I think that this is so clever of them, and I can't remember what we were talking about specifically, but I remember us having a conversation regarding when a game stops making you money, like who should have access to it now. I think it was in regards to the Nintendo kind of shutting down all the emulators and stuff. And I was like, well, these games aren't making you money anymore. People aren't buying 3DS games, so why wouldn't you allow them to play them however they want? This kind of feels a bit like the reverse of that, and like, well, people aren't buying this game anymore because either if you're going to play it, you're going to play it and you've already got it, or you're not going to play it at this point. It's been out for long enough, like a vast amount of time. So many people have played it. That's kind of, it's reached the end of like its cost. It's profitable lifetime.
They'll be selling a few copies a year from people who think, oh yeah, I've still not played The Witcher.
And maybe we'll wait for it to be in a Steam sale or something, or go down in price. Yeah, like they're not making any money from this game anymore, so why not give it to the people?
But then also in doing that, like it might encourage more people to think like, like first off, you just remember that The Witcher exists and think, oh yeah, I've been meaning to play that, maybe I should play The Witcher. And also, even if you're someone who maybe used to own it, or you are one of those people who's been planning on getting it, you might think like, oh well, I might not actually be that into playing the story, but like I like a creative kit, I like to just make stuff in games, so I suspect they will make a few sales out of this now.
There probably be quite a few modders who are like, oh, I want to get my hands on this and see what I can do with it. I don't know, it's not necessarily the first of its kind, but I do think that it's nice to see things like this happening. I would love one for Baldur's Gate 3. I know it's only just come out, but they're not making any additional content for it now. They said that their story with it is done. There's no DLC or anything coming, which breaks my heart. But if the modders start to get access to things like this and create more content in the world of Baldur's Gate 3, or using the mechanics or characters, then like, how is that a bad thing? I think everyone benefits from it.
And although, as you say, it's not a kind of it's not the first of its kind, but it is, I think, fairly unusual for them to include the ability to make like cutscenes and animation. You don't generally like it, again, that's not the first time that's ever happened, but or sometimes it's like a whole separate package, like you have what's the Valve one called, Source Filmmaker. But like to have a whole collection of stuff all together where it's like, hey, make your own levels, make your own items, and you can also animate stuff. I think that's really cool. Also this week I saw a tweet. I don't remember, I didn't see the date on the tweet. Someone had like quote tweeted it, but the original I assume was a recent thing where Super Mario 64 thing has just come out as well. It's not official, obviously. It's something that someone's just made, a bunch of modders.
Where you can make your own levels and stuff.
And that's all, that's like a very modular game as well, like Mario is. So that's going to be even more intuitive to like just stick a bunch of blocks together. And, that's great. There was like a whole trailer they'd cut together with all these examples. And again, some of it was just like interesting levels, and some of it, like you could see, was just kind of like silly stuff that people had made for fun, like musical stuff where note blocks in Minecraft, the equivalent of that, are like playing tunes. So to see it in Mario as well, Mario 64, that's great. I have a lot of really fond memories of the Time Splitters Future Perfect like map maker, and I would spend hours and hours on that. Probably maybe about half the time, maybe not half the time, but maybe about a quarter of my entire runtime playing that game was like building and playing in maps that I'd done, and it's a great way to kind of just encourage creativity and like people sharing stuff on social media. So I think it's just a win-win for everyone. And more games should do it because you don't see it so often anymore.
No.
It used to be more of a staple.
I don't know if maybe like this has just become more of a recent thing, or maybe I've just kind of read into things differently. But I feel like Bethesda, despite being like the self-proclaimed king of RPGs, they don't really love it when modders make content for their games. I feel like we've seen a lot of instances of them kind of, I mean, more recently with Fallout 4, kind of not really being very supportive of people creating additional content for the game. Obviously, there's loads of content out there with Skyrim and Fallout and etc. But it doesn't necessarily feel like they appreciate people making content for their game as much as like other studios perhaps do.
I think they have publicly said like, oh, we know that like the modding scene is a big part of our community. But I kind of know what you mean. Like you kind of get vibes where it's almost like they're tolerating it. Like they kind of know like people do this, so we should. It's the PR friendly thing to do to say let's do it. And so they've made the the console like compatibility stuff like. Which for many years with like Oblivion and Skyrim was impossible to have mods on console. But it feels like that's almost like a way for them to like police stuff as well, like to have the console like mod compatibility. Whereas on PC, when you've got like Nexus
the
Mod
Steam
Manager
Workshop
and the Steam Workshop, like anything can go on there. And
Yeah.
And I suppose like in a way I can maybe see how like if I put out a big sandbox RPG game and then I discovered like a year later that someone had made some obscene mod in it, I might feel a bit like, why have you done that?
Yeah.
Don't do that. So I can kind of see where they might be coming from if that is indeed their attitude. But it should be, I think it should be largely embraced by developers and publishers.
I mean, like certain games thrive and only are now still so relevant because of additional content that's made by players, like Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Online would be nowhere near as interesting and would have nowhere near as many players if there wasn't so many player-created maps and content.
The Trials games had a much longer lifespan than they would have done, I think, if they'd not had the ability to make your own stuff. So.
I mean, games like Mario Maker and like those games lasted and had such huge communities because it was what people can make and do things together. I mean, admittedly, Dreams tried it and didn't quite ever have like I think the player base they wanted, but I think that's partly because it was quite complicated and it wasn't like a simple like you stick blocks here for a Mario Maker type situation. More it was just like draw a person and hope for the best.
And I think it's good when a system of tools like that already has like a foundation of like a pre-existing game.
Yeah.
So you've got The Witcher here. Everyone knows how The Witcher goes. And then if you want to make something that's completely not The Witcher and doesn't even play like that, like people will be doing like really clever things with this where you're probably not even controlling a real character or something. I don't know how powerful it is, but I've seen stuff like I remember in Trials actually as an example, a bunch of maps where you were just a sphere in a 3D world, like rolling along planks and stuff. I don't know how they did that, but it's seemingly possible given certain powerful tools to do that. So it allows people to go out and do like abstract stuff, but at least if you have the baseline of side-scrolling motorbike game or, hack and slash fantasy RPG, then people can iterate on that. Whereas Dreams was just, this is Dreams.
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
Yeah.
Like you can do absolutely anything, but that can be a difficult jumping off point for people. Whereas if it's, it's an FPS that has
if you've not got established all of the mechanics or anything,
exactly.
It adds so much more.
So that might be why Dreams was, didn't have the staying power that something like Gary's mod did as well. For example, you've got your like Counter-Strike and Half-Life. So yeah.
Well, in all, Not a bad thing, I would say.
A very good thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what people do.
Yeah, and also pretty important.
Yeah, and it kind of came as a bit of a surprise, a bit weird.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. You could almost say it was weird news.
It was weird news. It's weird news time. Time for some weird video game news.
If you'd like to submit weird news,
thanks.
you can do so by posting it on the post that we put out on a Tuesday. And if you want to guarantee yourselves a shout out, you can become a podcast producer, just like...
Thank God for you, Ashton.
Thank you, no problem.
Chip Thompson's Thumbs.
GY Goliath.
Nexus Polaris.
Nicole Hansen.
Andy Scott.
Blake Thomas.
Timothy Bentley.
Kyle Gary.
Shaman Nomo.
Great Giggity.
Melody L. Bonnet.
Katie Garrod.
Hugh Jars.
Gabrielle Philippink.
Potato_Shack99.
Eric CU.
And Big Money Bobby Vegas.
Pew, 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 pew.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, podcast producers, for that.
Got some weird news, Peter?
I have, and this one was sent in by Peter Austin.
Oh my God, I hate that guy.
Oh, me too.
Top fan.
Top fan. I saw this earlier this week, just being talked about on Twitter. And I really wanted to bring it along, but I had to go really hunting for anyone who's actually done a write-up about it because it's a bit of a dodgy story, but hey.
Funny, though.
Yeah, really funny. Ben would probably not allow me to read this story if he was here. So.
But he's not here, so we can do what we want.
What's he going to do? So this is according to sportskidar.com.
Excuse me, where?
Sportskidar or Sportskidar.
I'm not sure.
Kida.
Not a very good font, not very clear.
No, it's not. This is written by Nishant Thakar, who says, "Why did Angry Birds issue an apology? Explicit tweet drama explained." Oh, you know about this, don't you, Ashton?
I do. I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah. Angry Birds recently issued an apology on their X account in response to the controversy that they had sparked after reportedly reposting an inappropriate post.
Did you see the post they retweeted?
Yeah. I'm going to read it in a bit.
Good.
The apology clarified that the specific repost was a genuine mistake on their part. The team at Angry Birds also added that they deeply regret any harm that may have transpired. Here's what they said. "We sincerely apologize for an unfortunate incident that occurred on our account. Recently, an inappropriate post was accidentally reposted from the account.
Someone definitely got fired.
Yeah. This was a genuine mistake, and we deeply regret any harm it may have caused." Several fans were left confused due to the lack of context behind the apology, given that the initial repost shared on their handle was swiftly removed. Some users who saw the repost shared screenshots revealing the exact specifics of the incident that had taken place. Where is it? It's just now talking again about the apology that was made. Hang on. Here it is. It's a really bad screenshot that I'm going to have to try and zoom in on. Okay. It's really low quality. So before I read what has been reposted, I will clarify exactly what happened. This tweet was at Angry Birds, so someone atted them, and it was retweeted by the official Angry Birds account. I don't know if they perhaps have something in place that sort of auto retweet stuff occasionally.
Probably not, but it might just be that like someone, if they've got like a tweet deck or something, just sees the tweets and just said at Angry Birds, and then like someone talking about their other kid didn't quite read it correctly, it retweeted it, and then it wasn't until someone went,
I think you'll find you've just reposted a tweet that says at Angry Birds. I don't know how much of this to just read verbatim. I will. I'll say it all.
Ben's going to tell us all.
Yeah. At Angry Birds. I used to jerk off to Angry Birds. When I was about a young age, I loved Angry Birds. I had every game and bought every toy they had. Then, one day, I was playing Angry Birds when all of a sudden the big red bird turned me on. I couldn't stand it. I was going crazy. I decided to pull. That was retweeted by the official Angry Birds account. And they then very quickly unretweeted it and apologized publicly. The article says, if the screenshot is accurate, then a serious mistake occurred on the developer's end. Fans expressed their opinions on the event, with some being lighthearted and some being harsh towards the developers. There was one where
accidents happen.
Yeah, exactly. Some people were saying like, oh, here it is. I would like to know how that happened, though. It's not like with likes where it's only one tap. You have to press the retweet button and then confirm it. How could it be an accident? It was an accident. I don't think anyone thought...
Unless like someone working there was like, it's
my
last
day, yeah.
Time to cause some chaos.
Yeah, so that happened. No one brought it along to Weird News, so I thought I had to do it myself.
No one brought it on because they're not fans of sportsskidar.com.
Yeah, sportsskidar. No one saw it.
The only people that were talking about it, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird, though. You'd think that somewhere like Kotaku or...
I know, it seems like it's
like right up their alley. I don't know why they wouldn't talk about it. It's weird.
Because I
was looking to see, when you said, I was like, I wonder if they've posted it. It's a bit easier to find. But no.
No,
nothing.
Like you, saw it on Twitter, as it was sort of happening earlier in the week. And at the time, I was like, okay, that's going to be my Weird News when inevitably it's written up.
Mm-hmm.
And it never was, apart from by Sportsskidar.
Yeah. I have some news.
Yeah.
I have some news. It came from Stephen Skolars on Twitter and Amy Wicks on Facebook, by Kotaku, by Kenneth Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
You can't play Steam games in your new Tesla anymore.
Oh.
If you wanted to play PC games in your parked electric car, that era is over. Damn it! I just got one.
Just for gaming.
A Cybertruck. It's huge and it doesn't fit in any parking spaces in the United Kingdom. Tesla, the electric car manufacturer run by social media website vandal Elon Musk, has announced that it's rolling back Steam support in its vehicles. Booting up a video game on the scale of Cyberpunk 2077 from the comfort of your parked car is the definition of bougie and unnecessary. But what was par for the course for the same company that touts self-driving cars whose autopilot mode has resulted in several crashes and deaths, that's big tech priorities for you. Steam was added as an app for Tesla cars in 2022, and if you own a car that was previously compatible with the PC video game launcher, you should remain unaffected. But according to Electrek, it really threw me off because it's ELEC Trek, like Star Trek.
Right.
It confused my head.
Electric.
Yeah, clever, but confusing. Tesla has informed new Model S and Model X owners that newer cars won't be able to use Steam. The memo reads as follows. Tesla is updating the game computer in your Model X, and your vehicle is no longer compatible for playing Steam games. All other entertainment and app functionalities are unaffected, so you can still play Angry Birds on there if you want to. Where's the rest of the article? It's hidden behind some ads. While saying you can play video games in your car is the kind of we're living in the future nonsense big tech corporations want to tout when they are trying to sell you something, I can't get past the cars are death traps that do not need a million bells and whistles. It doesn't let you play games while the car is in motion, which was at least the bare minimum safety measure in the situation. But it makes me wonder, what was the imagined use case of this? I could see someone playing the argument that maybe kids want to play games while their parents drive them somewhere. But if the app only works in park, it just seems like the most inconvenient way to play your games. If you can afford a Tesla, get yourself a Steam Deck.
I have a couple of questions about that, which I'm not suggesting you'll be able to answer. I don't think I have this information.
Try me.
How powerful is the processor in a Tesla? Like how...
The car engine powerful.
Well, exactly. Like what have they got built in there that what games can it play and
NVIDIA,
how well?
Like i79 processor core.
Crysis 3 in ultra
it's got water cooling system inside the car.
And also, I wonder whether this is a licensing issue. Steam have just said, no, you're not doing it anymore. Or if it was perhaps deemed, even if no one was using it.
There's three ways of so no one was using it, so they were like, why are we paying for this license? Let's spin it off.
Assuming that they're paying to have Steam in there, which I guess
Valve
they would have
said,
to.
Oh, we don't want to work with you anymore, Elon Musk, you weird man, you weird goblin-looking man.
Yeah.
You can't, no thank you. Or they wanted to start selling their cars everywhere, and some people were like, you can't have games consoles in your car.
Yeah, maybe. I was going to say maybe one of the options is it was still deemed some kind of safety issue, even though you can't do it in motion.
Your metal death traps cannot have a PlayStation 5 attached to the front of it.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, in the UK, I believe if you are...
You can't do the self-driving thing in the UK, I don't think.
No, well, that's not what I was going to say. But yeah, if in the UK, if you are in a stationary vehicle and you have your hand on your phone, and I don't mean if you're sitting at red traffic lights, because you shouldn't be doing that if you're literally on the carriageway, but I think even if you're parked on the side of the road and you touch your phone and have your phone in your hand, I believe if your engine is running, that is still considered illegal, even if you're like mounted on the curb in a legal parking spot.
But then again, I don't know if that's illegal in America, so...
No, but perhaps, as you say, like internationally, maybe it was deemed illegal to even be stationary playing video games in a car with the ignition on. I don't know.
No.
And I might even be wrong about that phone thing, but I think it's true that if your car's running and you're parked, you shouldn't be on your phone, I think. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Well, now, Peter, it's time for something else.
What?
I think you know what.
It's the big discussion. It's big discussion time for the big video game discussion. This week it comes from Frederick Jensen, I'm going to say.
All right, if you have to.
Might be Jensen, like Jensen Button.
It's much like, I feel like a lot of patrons, we start debating on their name and it takes people a while to clarify. Mm-hmm. You just like us talking about you, don't you?
Yeah.
You little cheeky monkeys.
You love it. I have a friend, we have a family friend who...
You have another friend apart from me.
Yeah. She's not a best friend.
Yeah.
She's just our friend.
Okay.
She's just turned 70, but 10 years ago-ish, she was in a Waterstones, and she texts my mum saying, I'm at Waterstones. I think there's a big signing on or something. It's really busy. Who the hell is Jason Button? Which I like. I enjoyed that.
Jason Button.
Jason Button.
My favourite bike driver.
Yes. Hi, Bab.
Hi.
This week, IGN acquired Gamer Network. Gamer Network includes, amongst others, Eurogamer, Rock, Paper, Shotgun. That's the end of the sentence. Eurogamer, Rock, Paper, Shotgun. What do you guys think about the consolidation of gaming news sites? And as people with experience in the field, what do you think of the current state of the gaming news industry? P.S. Loved the extended name talk when I last asked a question. Well, there you go.
A bit more for you there.
It even led to an anecdote. I've got a bit of a write-up here. IGN buys 4 major gaming sites as games journalism keeps spiraling, says Forbes, I think this was. IGN Entertainment, owned by Ziff Davis, has now bought the entire Gamer network of brands, which includes at least 4 of the highest-profile gaming sites left alive in the space, and stakes in others. The purchase includes Eurogamer, gamingindustry.biz, Rock Paper Shotgun, and VG247. Then, shares in Outside Xbox, Digital Foundry, Nintendo Life, Push Square, Pure Xbox, and Time Extension. The move has already resulted in significant redundancy layoffs of acclaimed journalists across the brands as they are absorbed into the mega site. While consolidation is generally not great in any industry, games journalism is especially struggling, and moves like this are only going to make things worse. Mid-level or smaller sites are already fighting against YouTube and Twitch, and for visibility against Google's increasingly actively hostile search policies, which now include AI rip-offs of their articles as of last week. But now you have a site like IGN owning 5 major brands that can populate the entire link list for a given topic in theory. Yikes.
Big yikes on this one.
Yeah.
I know that these were all technically owned by our company beforehand, and maybe it is better than them being bought by some, like UAE conglomerate that no one's ever heard of. But don't know if they should be owned by IGN. Don't know if that's particularly healthy for any of these companies, given that they are pretty much each other's main contenders.
Yeah.
If they bought Kotaku as well, then we'd pretty much have no.
Yeah, pretty much the only major sites remaining, major gaming news sites that are still sort of independent are Kotaku, which seems to be on its knees and constantly
has been
in
for
threat
a while.
And Polygon. And I can't really think of another exclusively game related or mainly
they've not
game
bought
related.
Gamerant, or is that part of the Gamer network? Because they bought, was it Games Radar and the Gamer?
Yeah, it's all very confusing because also in that article, it says that you have Fandom, who recently bought GameSpot, Giant Bomb, and Metacritic in 2022, and the Gamur Network, GAMUR, they own Destructoid, The Escapist, GamePur, and Twinfinite. So a lot of these things all sound the same.
They've had a good run with owning The Escapist, so for every one of their favourite people to just bounce.
Yeah, indeed.
It's been an interesting year in the gaming world, and I think we're seeing knock-on effects in a lot of different ways, and this is the first big situation where I feel like, oh, something's wrong in games journalism. We've had like layoffs, and there's been obviously the whole issue with The Escapist and a bunch of the Kotaku writers and ex-editor-in-chief leaving Kotaku, jumping ship when they got bought by whoever on earth owns them now. But I think that like this was the first time where I was like, oh man, this is bad news for games journalism, because you either have one company that now owns, like it says in the article, every single top ranking site that's going to hit Google, so is now owns all of its major competitors, or you are suddenly going to have a lot more layoffs as IGN decide to shut down one or more of these huge outlets. Yeah,
that's the worst part about this is, of course, the redundancies. Yet again, we're seeing redundancies in the gaming industry, the wider gaming industry. We see it a lot at the moment with developers and publishers, but it is also happening in journalism and so forth. Also there is the question of sort of kind of monopolization, and I'm kind of surprised this has just been allowed to happen. Maybe it's a bit less kind of stringent and less policed when it's something like a media outlet rather than someone who's actually like producing product. But I suppose one kind of mercy with this is that for the time being, at least, it seems like the individual brands are still going to be kept alive separately. And with that, you have, some of the original employees, unfortunately, others have been made redundant, but those people can hopefully continue to largely output the same kind of stuff they always have been, with maybe the same tone that they always have done, because these different sites and different brands have always had like
different energies.
Yeah, exactly. Different interests and different ways of covering things. Kotaku hasn't been purchased in this case, but Kotaku, for example, is our home of weird news. We always go there, or it is often a place to go for some of the stranger stories that don't always get picked up elsewhere. So that's an example of a certain site having a bit of a its own little niche, and the same is true of most of those, really. And hopefully, if the brands are sort of retained as separate things, then they can go on as they were. The real issue and the real sadness would come if those individual brands were kind of dissolved and just all of the staff, or some of the staff, and those who are left, are absorbed into just a giant IGN website.
Yeah. Well, this is also the thing, is that not all of these websites are necessarily created equal. Some of them are smaller than the others.
Yeah.
And I think that my main worry, and the worry I would have if I worked for Eurogamer, for example, is if we don't bring in enough clicks, if we are not beating out these other three companies, we're going to be the one that's going to be shut down.
Yeah.
I know that we don't know if IGN may have bought all of these to save them and have absolutely no intention of making any huge changes or shutting any of them down, but we don't know that. And Xbox bought loads of companies and then shut them all down, despite them doing well. So I think that we live in an industry in a time at the moment where you make one mistake or you don't make a mistake, and you're still at risk. And I think that is kind of the most worrying thing about this, is that if you're owned by a company that's already doing what you're doing, you have to make sure you stand out amongst the other ones or you're going.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big worry.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully there are some benefits to, acquisition is always generally a very scary thing that happens to a company. And because there's the uncertainty and you don't know what's going to happen with a new boss walking in. But potentially being under an IGN umbrella might be beneficial. I mean, I guess none of these websites were probably struggling to, do cover, like all of these people were being probably invited to events and things like that already. So maybe there's not that much of an improvement for them. But certainly if IGN decided to acquire a much, much smaller website, then that might be beneficial to that smaller site. Suddenly you're under IGN and you might be getting codes earlier than you used to and things like that. I'm trying to see a silver lining here. There aren't that many.
I guess the silver lining is they were going to get shut down and now they might not.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of, they were having to be sold because the company who owned them before couldn't afford them anymore.
Yeah.
And I think the worry I have as well, which is kind of, I think, one of the major problems in the gaming journalism industry at the moment, is that it doesn't always feel like they're keeping up with the times as much. Like, we've obviously seen like how Eurogamer have a YouTube channel, as does IGN and so on. But it does feel like, okay, print media died almost. And now like online magazines and websites are also struggling because of people's retention and attention rates. And it's just not necessarily healthy for this, like, for it to be a simply like written website anymore, which is why we see so many different articles which have embedded links to videos, or we see so many quick articles that we always joke about them being like flushed out with a bunch of extra stuff. And I just think that maybe if IGN have the money to do so, maybe they will spend more resources in turning one of these websites into a more video focused content farm. Or I hope that we can see a shift in the industry in many ways, and I hope that maybe this might be a shift in the gaming journalism world to see how we start to branch out a little bit further.
It's interesting to think about where we might be in 10 years time, because as you say, print media now is almost non-existent in the gaming world, whereas it was once, that was where you got all it's where you got your video game news. And some of them had a website and you might like log onto it and it might have a few interesting things, but that's not where you went, partly because people didn't use the internet as much as they do now. So and here we are now with almost no print media remaining, and as you say, websites kind of also on a downward trajectory. So it's interesting. What's also interesting actually is that article that I read there, later on it said, there's also the public war against game journalists, in part by the anti-woke crowd, who believes the progressive-leaning outlets are going extinct because of allegedly activist takes. So that brings us full circle to question one.
Look at us, what we've done.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting as well to see whether there are changes in tone post acquisition under IGN. I don't know if IGN is one of these hugely woke companies that's now going to be pushing their hugely woke agenda onto gamingindustry.biz.
Were you talking about a lesbian in a video game? Woke.
But that's apparently one of the reasons that people aren't reading websites anymore.
I don't think so.
No,
I think these people. I don't think these people read very much.
Yeah.
So
maybe you're right. But that's what they're citing as one of the reasons the websites are going down.
If you use woke unironically, I just assume you don't. You don't read that much.
Yeah, that's right.
But hey, we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see if this is a good thing. If there'll be major shifts coming from IGN and anywhere else. I know that the company that owned them all before, they still own EGX and MCM because they own the kind of rights to those events. So we'll see how they keep going with those. We've already seen some fallout post Insomnia, so we'll have to see what's going on. I just think it's a very tumultuous time at the moment, and maybe this is a good thing. Maybe a company like IGN with clearly a substantial amount of money might be able to keep these companies afloat, and we might see some shifting in how they all operate, but I think we're going to have to see.
It is a shame though that, like, you know, you mentioned EGX and so on there, like that, you know, also we're seeing a decline in the video game conference broadly, you know, E3 and so on, and it kind of feels like everything's becoming a bit homogenous, like just all coverage is
the same,
is trending towards the one format of like short form, like easy videos, because people have such short attention spans. And I know as someone who works in video games video coverage, I should be trying to champion it, and I obviously think it has its place. I think it's a great medium, but it's a shame that we can't also have like huge like live events to go to. We still have them, but they're on the way out.
They're few and far between now.
Yeah, and even to, you know, just have like a nice magazine to flick through, something to like have in your hands. You know, just kind of feels like everything's becoming sit down and watch video.
Yeah,
nice
I'm
to have a
hoping
mixture.
We'll have more of a. I'm hoping that like a few years' time, we'll have a bit more of an uptick and a bit more of a golden age in terms of games and the gaming sphere in general, like conferences and journalism. I just think that like we're in a time now where I think we're starting to see the effects that COVID had on this industry a lot more now than we did closer to when the actual pandemic began.
Yeah, that's true.
I think we're seeing the financial ramifications, and we're also seeing like I was saying earlier, the cultural ramifications, how that shifted a lot of this like the zeitgeist around just wokeness and like tolerance has shifted a lot, and we have a lot of different outcomes from the pandemic. And I think
and the way people consume stuff.
Yeah, and I think we'll look back on stuff in like 5 years' time, and we'll notice how much everything shifted. Yeah, like during these last few years, and hopefully by that point things would have settled and potentially be back on the up in terms of tolerance of each other and the quality of games and the financial situations. We can only hope that things will eventually be on the up again, because right now it feels like we kind of don't stop heading down, do we? We're in a slow helter-skelter down. That's how I feel.
Yeah, there was the change in attitudes, as you say, and then also the fact that everyone was at home, whether they were at home watching stuff and receiving news, or at home being a journalist having to create news remotely. And so everyone kind of realized, at least temporarily, this can all be done in our own homes at both ends. So let's all just make videos or write stuff at home digitally. The other person will then receive it at their end. You know, no need to go to a big event and have a big multi-sensory experience. So and then also we had the kind of the overreaching as well financially, which is one of the causes of all the redundancies we've had in the past year or two, is that people companies took on so many more staff because there was this huge spike in video games consumerism when we were all locked down, and now it's dropped back to what it would have always been at this time, onto the original trend. And we're having to plug the gap, unfortunately. Well, what a shame. We'll have to watch what happens.
Not a shame yet.
No, not yet.
Bit dodgy on the inside, feels bad, like how I felt about Xbox Activision. Like feels bad in the pit of my tummy, but as yet hasn't been proven to be a terrible thing quite yet. I mean, we've obviously seen redundancies. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Yeah, but for the individuals, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But globally.
But, you know, embrace a group, Xbox, pit of my tummy kind of feeling with this IGN.
We love big companies becoming bigger in the
love
video games
conglomerates.
Industry. Yeah.
Oh, I love monopolies and conglomerates. It's my favourite thing in this industry. It never goes bad.
Never, ever, ever goes wrong.
Ever. Well,
it's time for the outro.
Yeah,
now.
well, let us know what you thought about the things we've talked about on today's podcast. And hey, just be nice.
Yeah.
If you use the word woke unironically, no one's going to take you seriously. Sorry. It's time for the outro now. Peter, where can they find us online?
You can find us at youtube.com and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. All of our videos are going out on YouTube, and almost all of our streams happen on Twitch, unless we do special ones on YouTube. And if you've got Amazon Prime, you are paying for a great big bundle of things, including a Twitch sub. So you can redeem that against our channel, get all the benefits of being a subscriber at no extra cost on top of your Amazon Prime.
Indeed. We also have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok accounts, all of which we are at Team TripleJump, and patreon.com/Team TripleJump if you'd like to support us. And of course, head over to our website, which is triplej.mup, where you can find our cameos, our merch, all kinds of things about us. And why not leave a review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms. Because like he's really here, isn't it?
Yeah. Next week. He'll be back.
Just enough time to say about this week's sponsor, which of course was terrible. Smell Trade 2, Senua's Saga. Hopefully it's good.
More like Sent to Us Saga.
That is good.
SC.
I was trying to Google like what rhymes with saga, and it was just like Arga. And I was like, okay.
That's it.
Doesn't quite
Senua's
work.
Arga.
Yeah. That's a big fridge, isn't it, an Arga?
No, it's a big cooker.
Oh.
Like a gas range.
Oh. Well, there we are. We've all learned something today. Thanks for listening/watching, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
We will.
Bye.